Is the CLK 200 with its supercharger and 163, maybe a little bit more horsepower depending whether you've got the updated M271 engine, has it got enough power to be fun, and has it got the handling characteristics to be fun? Because a lot of people will say, well, a Mercedes is not really, it's not a BMW, it's designed for older people, it's comfortable and it's quiet, and well, this car doesn't really, as I talked in my review, which you can watch, the suspension is quite stiff, quite firm, the tyres are wide, and the alloys are big, 18-inch wheels. They look great. So the ride comfort's not that smooth, or at least at low speeds and potholes. But the positive side to that is, and I've recently experienced this driving around the peaks, is that the handling is really pretty good. Much better than you would expect from what you've heard people say about the CLK. Now I'm going to be driving over the Cat and Fiddle, which is the road between Buxton and Macclesfield in the peaks, and it's known a lot by bikers. They really enjoy the ride on it. It's just a really nice route which I've driven many times, very scenic, but also the roads are twisty and you can have a bit of fun. The tyres on this car when I got hold of it were Dunlop Sportmaxx, and they were 7 or 8 years old and like bricks. They turned into solid brick with lots and lots of like sort of flaky bits and cracked bits of rubber. So I've sort of gone with what you originally would find on this car pretty much, and bought some Dunlop Sportmaxx RT2, which were expensive. They were £400 for 4 tyres. No, it's expensive, it's not that bad really, could be worse. It was the rears that were expensive, and it's transformed both the handling and the ride of this car, and the quietness as well when cruising. So I would really recommend those tyres for this car. Generally speaking, when I drive this car, I keep it in comfort mode on the gearbox, which means that it starts off in second gear, so it's always a smooth pull away. Also useful for snow if you ever need it for that. It changes up sooner than it would in the other mode, which is sport mode. So it doesn't hold on to the gears for as long, so it keeps the engine noise down, and generally just a nicer way to cruise about. Then you've got sport mode, which sets off in first, so you can get some quicker acceleration from a standstill, and also it holds on to the gears longer, and I find that when I'm just driving around it, you just hear the engine revving for no reason, so I tend to leave it in comfort. But when it comes to actually having a bit of fun on the roads, what you need is manual mode, so you can use the flappy paddles and pick what gear you want, so you've always got the right power. And that really does, for driving around on these twisty roads, really does transform how the car is, how much fun you can have with it. So coming up here on the right is the Cat and Fiddle. Again, well, it's quite busy today. There's a lot of bikers. Bikers love this road. Now, I was saying that the CLK doesn't feel too powerful, but once you've got it in manual mode and you start using the revs, it's not too. It's quite punchy. Yeah, it's quite a lot of fun actually. That torque from the supercharger, you can feel it. The brakes are they're good, but you have to push hard. So I guess that's what you might want from a sportier car. Otherwise, you don't really get much until you put your foot down. And then yeah, you don't need to rev it too far out. You get up to 4,000, and it's yeah, it's fun. And then these Dunlops around the corners, and the suspension, it holds you. You can set the seat bolsters to really hold you in place. Like, even with me, I'm narrow frame, and they really hold me in. For all I said about the ride comfort in this car, I think it's worth it, because once you get to these roads, it's far more planted and grippy than you would imagine, and there's not really much body roll. You can't feel the car. You really can't feel the car rolling into corners or anything. And this is just completely standard. I've not done anything to it. And there goes the Ferrari. He's having a bit of fun on this road as well. There he goes. Down 2 gears like an F1 driver. Yeah, it's a fun car actually, I have to say. Even though I've had it for a good while now, I'm quite surprised with it. Didn't want to change up there, it just wanted to redline, so that was interesting. It knew I needed to overtake. Yeah, I'd be interested to know how the bigger engine CLKs feel, because obviously you can have more power, but I would guess that the weight of the engine in this car is less. It actually looks like it's quite far back in the engine bay when you look in there, and yeah, probably I would imagine gives this car quite a nice handling characteristics compared to bigger engine cars like the 320 or the 500. It must make a difference, that's all I can say. I've not actually driven one of those. Maybe even like the diesel model, you know, like diesel engines tend to be heavier. So there's got to be some advantages to this smaller compressor engine. Yeah, so the brakes on this car, I think they are the original, but they must have come with a sports pack because they are drilled discs. I guess they're possibly AMG discs, and like I say, you have to punch on them for it to stop, for it to really give you some braking power. But they do brake strongly when you stick that right foot down. There's a little delay when you change gear, like sometimes it's not quite as quick as you'd expect. Well, you'd hope, but then I think people are, you know, that's okay from one of these 5-speed Merc gearboxes. It's not too bad. I know people complain about the speed of the changes, but they're enough for it to be, you know, to give you control. I keep banging on about the tyres, but the Dunlops have been just transformation for this car. I know I had them on before, but they were, like I say, they were very old and knackered. One thing you're supposed to spend money on, isn't it? Well, one of the things, tyres and shoes and mattresses, anything that separates you from the ground, so they say. That Ferrari's going past me again. We've literally just done the same thing. I'm sure he's maybe having more fun than me, or maybe he's just scared because, you know, Ferrari on this road is probably, you push it too hard and you're gonna come a cropper. So anyway, I wonder, the question you may have had is, can the CLK 200 compressor be a fun car to drive? Because obviously CLKs are known for being comfortable, relaxing cruisers, GT cars. And I would have to say, certainly in this specification, with the sport suspension, it really can. You can have fun. And I'd recommend it, and whack it in manual mode, put some good tyres on it, and away you go. You should have a bit of fun with it. And then of course, when you want to settle down and go for a motorway cruise, this thing's absolutely relaxing on the motorway, so sort of a best of both worlds. I mean, it's not a master of either, let's not kid ourselves, but it's really up there, you know, and I really have been enjoying this car no matter what road I'm on, really. Something that surprised me with this car is that I was assuming that the pillarless design with this window here would probably ensue a lot of noise, like wind noise, road noise. It's much larger expanse of glass, and you've got that connection there in the middle, which, you know, would possibly cause a bit of wind noise to get through, a bit of vibration. But honestly, there's absolutely none of that. It feels just as quiet as any standard car with a middle pillar, so they've done a good job there. So the steering is actually quite direct as well. You've got this really big steering wheel, which Doesn't feel especially sporty. There's not much in the way of like deadness on the wheel. So I'm back now in town, and I'm going to switch it back into comfort mode. Comfort's a strange word because it doesn't affect the suspension or anything. You don't actually feel more comfortable, although obviously your ears are slightly more comfortable because you get less engine noise. Yeah, so now I'm just going back into relaxing mode, and the car can, again, because it's auto around town, it is relaxing. It's very smooth, pulling away in second gear in comfort. So in conclusion, if you want a car that doesn't break the bank to buy, I mean, maintenance-wise, you might have a few costs here and there, but if you want a car that doesn't break the bank to buy, and you want something that is a bit of fun on a good twisty A road or B road, then but also comfortable when you're on the motorway, comfortable around town, you really couldn't go too wrong with this car, this CLK. Now I think I got lucky with this one. Like I've said before, it's low mileage. I've been doing my best to stop it being low mileage. It started on just under 24,000 and now just under 27,000. And despite it being 15 years old, I've not had nothing wrong with it yet in 3,000 miles. So touch wood, except I can't because it's the Avantgarde, so it just has aluminium look. If you have a CLK, I'd love to hear your thoughts on its handling, whether if you've got like an elegance model or one with standard suspension or a bigger engine even, how is it, what's it like when you get onto the twisty roads. Like and subscribe and all that if you've enjoyed the video. There's bound to be more CLK content coming out in the future because it's my car, so it's pretty easy for me to film stuff. If you've got any ideas what you'd like to see with this car, I mean, I'm not talking modifications, I'm keeping it standard. I'm James May, I am James May, standard! But yeah, if you've got any thoughts on future videos or content, then yeah, please feel free to let me know. Yeah, thanks for watching.